Hi, I'm Jennifer Jill Araya.
And I'm Sarah Beth Goer.
Welcome to the Crafting Audiobooks podcast, where we discuss the art and craft of audiobooks, and we aim to go deep quick.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Our guest is producer Erick Black. Erick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Diving in to our first question, because we like to go deep quick here at the Crafting Audiobooks podcast. When you are listening to audiobook auditions, what makes one audition stand out over others?
So I would say I'd start with that very first sentence is very important. If we're listening to 50 auditions, if that first sentence comes out wrong, it could mean a quick click away from it. Mm-hmm. So I would say make sure you start it out as impactful and strong as possible. After that, it just needs to be solid. But if there's a little kitsch or something weird in that first sentence, sometimes I know we're here and we've got just so many to filter through. That could be a real quick switch over to the next one if it didn't come out right. So after you get past that, do what you do, make it the best that you can, but definitely pay attention to that first sentence. That's a big one. Yeah.
Well, I have some follow-up questions here. Like when you say come out wrong, quote unquote, are you talking about on a technical level or are you talking about like a gut performance level?
I think I would say both ways. I know it's hard with an audition. You're kind of coming in sometimes to it's a big question mark. You have some notes and you have the little 2-3 minute script that you were provided, and the rest of the story is a question mark. So, I think there's some amount of, as a producer, understanding that you don't exactly know what's going on. And there's a good chance I don't either. But, just you want it to be smooth. You want it to sound good. You don't want to, I know that's so hard. Or what makes it sound weird. I think going into it what your best interpretation is, and from a performance standpoint, and then from a technical standpoint, of course, you don't want your levels. You don't want to be peaking out. You don't want to be so quiet. I've got to crank it up. So a little bit of each, yes, performance and technical, just
like making sure that you're really in it right away as the performer. You don't like warm up halfway through and neglect the first line of the audition.
Exactly. It's like a demo, it's consider it like a demo you're putting up on your website or whatever. You want it to be your best foot forward.
All right. I've got one more follow-up question, which is, okay, so you're listening to 50 auditions. 20 of them had a great first line. Like, how are you differentiating from there?
Yeah. So
who's the best fit for the book?
Yes. So there you go. That's tough because it's always that way. It can be 20 different ones read 20 different ways, and they're all really good, right? So then we might narrow down to who's most appropriate. Maybe who has. We keep a database here at Dreamscape, and I think we try to make a point to get to know the narrators a little bit on a personal level and find out what they're about. So after that, audition maybe who's the best fit in that regard, maybe who has some experience that might lend themselves to it, who, we definitely are taking diversity, inclusion, very seriously in the industry these days. So that's a huge one too. Are you appropriate in that way?
Awesome.
Yeah, those are great thoughts.
A lot of little
for sharing.
Yeah. Sometimes it's tough, and I'm like, hey, I couldn't narrow it down. Normally we send 3, here's 10. To
the author, you mean?
Author has to pick.
Yeah, I leave it up to you. Or I don't know what you're looking for. So here's a few that sound like this. Here's a few that sound like that. Which is great. Authors are getting more and more and more involved. If they don't want to read it, they definitely want input, either up front or somewhere in the casting process. So
it sounds like another piece of it is that sort of ineffable quality where the author goes, that's who this character is. And there's nothing that can really be explained about it. It's just like a gut artistic creative choice.
Yeah, I've heard that somebody. Oh, that's exactly how I heard her in my head.
Nice.
And sometimes, sometimes we don't 100% agree with the author, but we have to consider they know something that we don't, or there's could be other factors that we're not considering. But
yeah, there's an element of the character that they just hear in someone's voice, even if you don't.
Yeah. So we guide but yeah, who knows? It's something to them, right? That was magical in that particular voice. So
Sure. Well, speaking of the magic of doing audiobooks, I would love to know, what about the art of audiobooks really drew you to this work? What part of the production work that you do, the craft of audiobooks, do you find most exciting and compelling?
So, yeah, for me, I sort of took the job out of necessity because I liked audio. That was, the industry I was in was audio. Kind of landed here. The options in Toledo, Ohio aren't too great for someone in my profession. Found this, said, oh, that sounds fun. And then, fell in love with it. Mainly, I think what I do love is really working with narrators. I think they're some of the most interesting people. You're reading all day. They're super interesting people. A lot of people with acting backgrounds that just have really neat life stories. It's fun when new narrators reach out and do kind of this initial dive into what they've done, and you see all these guest spots on TV shows sometimes in LA or like really cool stage plays or musicals, Broadway sometimes. And then sometimes it's like, I was a dental hygienist and like to do community theater, and I don't know, it's so cool. It's just anybody, can do this from any walk of life, I should say, can do this, and I just love, I love it. I love the community and how welcoming narrators are to help each other. You guys, what you're doing here, a podcast, you should be wanting to keep your trade secrets tight to you and not share it.
Oh, not at all. We want to we want to know what people think.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. And I think a lot of it has to do with, you chose people here in this love books, love knowledge, love reading. And I think that says a lot about a person. And it's one of the reasons that I enjoy being in the industry as much as I do.
Yeah, the audiobook community is absolutely the best. No question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. I've never heard anyone express that. Like, maybe we're all so awesome because we read all these books. So we educate ourselves and open our eyes. And, I've never heard someone make that connection.
And you're exposed to all these different ideas and that just goes a long way.
Yeah, there's that saying that you're only a different person from one year to the next if you read books and meet new people. And those are the things that make you grow over time. And, well, we read a lot of books.
Yeah.
And we meet people virtually most of the time.
Yeah.
Not last question. Second to last question. Describe qualities of what you would consider to be stellar narration.
So I think this changes, right? For me, year to year, I think it's evolved. I think it's a lot different from 8 years ago when I, first started getting into the world. My tastes certainly changed, and it's so subjective. My tastes are different than other people's. For me, at this point, what I feel like I'm drawn to the most is a very, I say conversational, but it's a little bit more than that. I think it's translating the words in a way that maybe feels super authentic, so that it feels conversational. I'm not like, I think there was a time when, you're an audiobook narrator, you need to have really good enunciation and hit each word and each consonant in a way that I know that you are a professional. And I think you can get away with a lot now in that way. You can embody the characters, especially in like a first person thing, in a way that just makes it sound like it's you talking. And I think that being transparent in that way, but yet making the characters come alive really is a tough thing to do. But I think when done right is bam, that hits and you're going, wow, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I agree. That's my style preference too.
Yeah, likewise. It's what I try to do in my narration. So,
Always striving.
That's right.
Yeah. And like, who knows, right? In 5 years, maybe it's giant cartoon characters that that sound great, but probably not. But it's like you see, like with a lot of the like sound effects happening in audiobooks now. That's kind of what people want. I think if done right, it's kind of cool, and music and full sound design. So
yeah, it's funny. I know that, things are trending that way. I prefer just a narrator's voice, unless it's like a full cast, like you're bringing a graphic novel to life and the sound effects really help paint the picture. Other than that, I just love the art of one person weaving the story and helping this movie unfold in your mind. So that's still my preference, but that just goes to what we're saying of the styles change and people's tastes change. And there's also individual taste involved.
Yeah. And to a big degree, I am the same as you exactly. Where if it's being done right, you kind of don't want the distraction of a sound effect in the middle of the chapter. But some books lend themselves to it very well, and it's nice to do something a little different sometimes too. So
yeah, and that goes to the craft right there too of being able to discern as the producer, like what is this book calling for?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first book that I listened to that had a bunch of different people, woven into the narration and all the sound effects and stuff was Brent Spiner's book that came out last year. And that one really, really benefited from all of the sound design. But since then, I've listened to some others that I was like, maybe that would have been better without that. I think it's really dependent on the
boing right in the middle.
Yeah.
Wait, why did we do that?
Where did that come
slide
from?
whistle?
Oh, funny. All right. Well, now we will get to our last question, which actually all of us will answer. But Erick, we'd love for you to go first. And the question is this. For you right now, today, what element of the craft of audiobooks is really exciting to you?
So I think it's what we just kind of touched on. Twice we've touched on it, right? So there was a way that audiobooks used to be done. And then it's changed. And you can get away with a whole lot more than you used to be able to, I think. And whether that's sound design, whether it's doing big multicast or dramatic original content, there's a lot of variety in there. And I think that's really exciting to be able to dig in to the book itself and go, what's going to make this the best? I saw a lot of this. I think Bono, that just had an autobiography and they put songs in it. We did one too with Margot Price. Maybe we'll make it with some unreleased songs, stuff like demos she pulled out of her. She had to call her mom and get them to pull them out of her garage or something.
That is so
her childhood home, which was awesome. And we were able to put those in and where appropriate, like you said, Brent Spiner's, and bringing in different voices. There's just so much that you can do. I mean, an original content alone. It doesn't have to be a book to be an audiobook. What? Wow. I mean, that's exciting. That's really exciting. So.
Indeed, it is. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Sarah, what about you? What today is exciting for you about the craft of audiobooks?
Okay, well, this might sound weird, but I'm hoping it translates for people. So, you know how actors, when you are acting in person with another actor, we work off each other. So in the moment, we're responding based on what the other actor gave us. But when we're alone in our booths, there's no other human to be responding to. But what I've been playing with and discovering is, like, in a weird way, I can when my characters are speaking to each other in the dialogue, I can let them work off each other. And it's almost like I've heard writers talk about how sometimes their characters are telling them what to write and they don't feel like they're writing. I'm kind of playing with this idea of like, can I let the characters come to life so much that they're working off each other like actors do in real life, and they're almost like surprising me with how they respond and how the line comes out of their mouths. So I'm really excited about that idea right now.
That is a really wonderful and insightful context for your work. I love that.
Thank you.
It's great.
Yeah. I think I might need to play with that some too.
It's so fun. And then I don't feel alone. I feel like I'm like
Sure.
I'm working with people who are all inside my head.
Oh, funny. All right. Well, what is exciting to me today about audiobooks is the process of co-creating something new with the author. I was in discussions with someone that I'm coaching actually right now, and she was talking about how sometimes she didn't feel like her work was very creative because she was just using the words that the author gave her. But I was then thinking about that more and was thinking, no, we are creating something that's entirely new and entirely different. And it's made better because we are putting ourselves into it as well. So the author and the narrator co-create the audiobook. And that doesn't mean it's any less the author's book or any less the narrator's audiobook, but it is a co-creation, and that our creativity matters too. So
Yeah.
I'm
really
enjoying thinking about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really a really great point, and that's it's a different product, you know, and you do what you do to it to make the audiobook an experience that you don't get from reading.
Right. Yeah, it's something new and not just the author's words. You know, the author's words by themselves could be read by an AI, and that's not what we're doing. That's not the craft of audiobooks.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, what excites me about what you both are saying, like what a beautiful way to put it, Jennifer and Eric, you saying like, yeah, it's a different product, it's a different thing, is that then the reader or the listener's imagination comes in and makes it a different thing too. So like the reader reading the book to themselves is a different experience than the reader listening, and it's just a different creative intake, and you know, that kind of strikes me as well.
And mine may be different. My experience with it might be different than yours. Might be different than
Yeah,
it's sort of like, you know, 5 different people looking at a painting are going to see 5 different things. Well, 5 different people listening to the same audiobook that's been co-created by a narrator and an author, so it's already not the book anymore, just the book. You know, those 5 different listeners are going to hear something different too.
Yeah.
Well, that is the conclusion of our discussion with Eric. Thank you so much for being here today. And Sarah, it was a joy to work with you as well on today's Crafting Audiobooks podcast. Eric, thanks for your time, and I hope that everyone loves listening to our discussion as much as I enjoyed having it. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks so much for listening to Crafting Audiobooks. We've been your hosts, Jennifer Jill Araya
And Sarah Beth Goer.
wishing you happy audiobook listening and/or crafting.
Bye for now.